Hi there. Today we are going to explore some of the advanced features and settings available within Zoom and focus mostly on things you can do as a Zoom host. So let's go ahead and get started and see what's available. To start out, we're going to look at settings that can be adjusted. And the easiest way to get there is to going to this settings icon up in the right corner when you've opened your Zoom application. And this settings area will give you an abbreviated version of some of the changes that you can make. These are mostly basic features such as changing the color schemes, asking if you want to confirm to leave a meeting, etc. Then you can go into your video settings and adjust your camera resolution, the sizing, if you want your video on or off when you enter a room or meeting. Audio allows you to test microphones and make any changes if you have a separate microphone, or if for some reason it's not working, you can make some adjustments within here. Screen share adjusts when others are sharing a screen how it looks to you. So if you want it to enter full screen automatically so that you can see whatever they're sharing in a larger view, you can do that right here, or you can scale it to fit in different ratios. You can also do a side-by-side mode, which allows you to see what the person is sharing, and then on the right side it will have small tiles of the participants' images. The chat features mainly focus on the notifications that you get while in a Zoom meeting. So do you want icons to pop up to show you that you have unread messages? What kind of organization do you want them to be in? So do you want unread to be shown first, etc. You can also make adjustments down here to the sound notifications. So if you are hosting a Zoom meeting and you don't want to be disturbed, or you don't want your recording to be conflicted with chiming every time you get a message, you can turn those off in here. Virtual background allows you to change the background that you have. If you have a green screen, you can choose I have a green screen and pick an image. It automatically has some pre-built images, but you can go to this plus button and add your own personal images or short video clips. You can also mirror your video so that it makes adjustments for if you have words on your screen, or if you happen to hold up something with words or letters, you want it unmirrored. But if you want it to flow with the direction you're moving, you could choose to mirror it. Then you have recording settings. This basically allows you to choose where your recording goes at the end of your Zoom sessions. I personally recommend clicking choose a location so that you know exactly where that recording goes after your Zoom meeting. Otherwise, it could easily be lost. And further down, these are mainly statistical items for Zoom. You can send feedback. You can adjust accessibility to where you can have closed captioning. If for some reason your audio does not work, or you need adjustments made for hearing impairment, you can do that down here. You can also get into more of the fine details if you go back to General and go all the way down to View More Settings. This will open up the Zoom tab in a web browser. So if we close this, it automatically takes us to Zoom settings. Now, it may ask you to log in if you have not logged in on this page, but once you do log in, it will take you to these settings. In here is where all the fine-tune adjustments can be made. And you definitely want to take a look at this before hosting a Zoom meeting to make sure some key elements are turned on or off. So if you want to enable waiting rooms so that people can join your meeting but not actually get fully into the meeting if you're not there, or if you want the added security of checking people before they come in, you will want to turn this on. When waiting rooms are turned on, you will get a small icon on the participants button that will show you how many people are waiting, and when you click on that, you can then choose to allow or deny people to come into your room. You can also choose here if you want a password required when you schedule your meetings. This is just an added security feature that is available. You'll just have to make sure that you share that passcode with your invitees and that they are familiar with how to use that password. Further on down is more settings you can use for passwords or personal meeting IDs. Your personal meeting ID is just your personal generated number that is custom to your account, and it will stay consistent. You can obviously build other meetings, but if you want to have one that's reoccurring and people are familiar with, it's similar to like having your own personal phone number. They know they can get a hold of you at this personal meeting ID number, but then you may have alternative meeting IDs for other meeting subjects. Further down, you can get into how you schedule your meetings and what happens when people join your meeting. So you can choose what kind of audio they're going to pull. Can they join before you enter? Again, are you using your own personal meeting ID? And that is something that changes for every meeting. If you want a random ID, you can do that as well. You just have to make sure this is turned on so that you can use your personal one for some meetings. Down here is muting participants upon entry. So if you don't want a lot of noise as people enter in, you can turn this on. You just have to know that if you are having participants that are not as familiar with Zoom, they will have to turn their mics back on. So this might be a little hiccup for some. But this again is something you can change in the settings of every meeting. Below is more meeting basics. So are you going to allow chat between participants? Do you want to automatically save the chats after the meeting? File transfer is one that's good to have available because you can share files in the chat box. It will turn them into a live link so you can go right to them. If this is not turned on, that icon will not be available to you in the chat room. And further on down, if you want to allow a co-host, you need to turn that on here. This basically just allows someone else to aid in your hosting, and they have many of the same permissions as the host, just a few less. Polling is another thing that's kind of a fun additive to Zoom meetings, and we'll cover this a little bit later in our training today. Screen sharing, this is one you definitely want to look at. Who can share? Most people want all participants to be able to share at some point, and who can start sharing when someone else is sharing. They will get a notification of, are you sure you want to share because someone else is sharing? But if these are not turned on, others will not be able to share their screen during a Zoom meeting. Now, most of these you can change while the meeting is going on, and they may go ahead and take effect. Others may not. So that's why it's important to go ahead and look at these before you get into your meetings. Annotation is something you will also want to allow, and we'll get into more of the annotation features in a little bit, but you need to have it turned on so that you can use some of those features. As well as whiteboard. Whiteboard is another fun additive to the meetings that you will probably want to use. And moving down, there's just a few other key features such as allowing participants to rename themselves. If you're working with maybe a younger group that may come up with some silly names, you may want to turn this off. But for the most part, allowing people to rename themselves is a good feature, simply because they may log in under someone else's account, maybe a spouse, etc., and they need to be able to make those adjustments so you know who you're meeting with. Further down is a few advanced features. This is where you can turn on to allow breakout rooms, you can allow closed captioning, and you can also skip through all of these. If you don't want to scroll down and you know specifically where you need to make some adjustments, you can click here and jump to these sections. So these are really a lot of key things that you want to kind of skim through, get familiar with, because really there's a lot of features that you may not even know are available. But if you read through these, you'll find, oh, that this is something I can do, or I do like this, or I don't want that to be available. So just make sure you kind of skim through at some point in time. Here's where you can turn on your virtual backgrounds. It's preset to be on within Zoom, but if for some reason it's not working for you, you can go in and check and make sure it's on. Zoom does a pretty good job of turning things on that they feel like most people use or are preferred settings. But again, just lightly browse through and see what works for you. Email notifications just focus on what you receive in your inbox. Say if you have a meeting scheduled and someone cancels it, you may want that notification when you've been requested to be in a meeting, etc. So you'll just want to take some time and skim through these, get familiar with options that are available to you. Also at the very top, you can make adjustment to your meeting accounts. So if you have reoccurring meetings, you can adjust in this main Zoom settings window. You can adjust your profile, etc. But settings is the main course where you adjust what happens in your Zoom meetings. Okay, so flipping subjects, we are going to look at some of the advanced features that can be used during Zoom sessions. So when you are in a Zoom meeting, you're familiar with, you will have this bottom bar that allows you to do additional things throughout a meeting. We are going to look at screen share first. So when this is clicked, it gives you some options of what you want to screen share. Do you want to do a whiteboard, an external device, your Chrome or internet browser that you may be using? But then you also have some advanced sharing options available as well. So if you have a second camera or you only want your audio shared, you can make those adjustments here. And then you can also just share specific files. This could also be done by having the file open on your computer and just screen sharing, but it's just good to know that these options are here as well. So I'm going to work backwards, and you can do a portion of a screen. So say you have multiple windows open, or you just want part of a browser window open, you can choose this, and it will give you a little box that is the area that will be shared with your participants. And you can grab the corner and drag and adjust to be your specified area. If you just wanted a whole tab area, you can do that, etc. So this is just a nice one to have if you just have a small portion that you want shared. And then when you are done, of course, hit stop share. So one of the other ones I wanted to look at is in the basic, and that is whiteboard. This is a great tool to use in multiple ways. When you enter the whiteboard option, you will be given a new toolbar of items that you can use on this interactive whiteboard. This is your mouse or your cursor. Your second option is the text. You can click on your screen and start typing. Now, note that when you click off of your text box, you can no longer move it or manipulate it in any way. However, as a host, you are able to move, add letters, change the coloring, whatever you choose to do to items put on the board. This is a great feature because if you have multiple people entering items at the same time, you cannot see where another person has started typing. So they may click and start typing, and they may accidentally end up on top of each other. In the case that they do, the host may move them around so it's easily visible. Over here, I'm going to jump. You can change the coloring, and I'm going to give you an example of how things may be overlaid. So again, as a host, you can hit select and move the items out of the way. Going on down, there is some drawing options. You have a highlighter, a pen, straight lines, arrows, and various shapes, either opaque or solid colored. And you just click on the one you like, and you can start dragging. You can adjust. Again, you can change the color up here, and so that your next one will be a different color. There's also a stamping option where you have various things that you can put onto the screen. Now, these are preset to a specific color, and you will not be able to change them. Next is the spotlight tool. Now, this is different than stamping. You'll notice an arrow. This arrow will stamp an arrow with your name inside it. So different participants will have their own name in it. So if you are using an image or something that you want people to gesture as their option, or something that's their own preference, you can have them use this arrow that is in the spotlight option. Now, the main thing that is different about this one as well is when you stamp again, it will move it. So it is not a permanent stamp as these are. So if I choose this arrow and I place it down, it will allow me to do multiples. Whereas again, this arrow in the spotlight option will move around. The spotlight itself is basically a red dot light, so you can see where I'm moving. This is a great item to use if you are hosting and you need to point something out, again on an image, a PowerPoint, etc. You can allow your participants to see where you are gesturing to. Here you have your eraser, where you can take anything away that you do not want to be seen. You also have an undo and a redo button. And then you have a couple options when it comes to clearing things. You can clear all of your drawings. Now this includes any you have done or any that your participants have done. You can clear just your drawings that you did yourself or the viewer's drawings. So maybe you had an activity where you put your input on and then the participants put their input in as well, but then you want to clear what they said so maybe they can vote again or make additional drawings or annotations. You can save and it will save straight to your downloads file on your computer. You can also add additional pages. You will need to go back to your select mouse button, and down here in the bottom corner you will see a square with a plus button. This is how you add a new page. Now you will see it tells me I am on page 2, but I can go back to page 1. So this makes somewhat of a slide feature for you. So you can have multiple activities done within the same Zoom session. And again, you can save any of the work that's done so that you can go back, view it later, or share it with your other participants. To exit, you just scroll up to your top and you would hit stop. Okay, so the last tool we want to cover in this session is polling. Now, this is something you will have to activate in the settings like what we covered earlier in the session, but it is a fun additive that you can use during your sessions. So to polls would be used to, what it says, ask questions, get feedback, etc. So to start a poll, you click polling. Now it will save previous polls you have created before, but if you want to use a different one, you can just edit and make a new one. It will open up a tab in your web browser, and you can title your poll whatever you like. So let's poll for favorite animals. Now, maybe you want to make it multiple choice or single choice. That's up to you. And then you just fill in the possible answers. You can do multiple questions. Let's say, what's your favorite food? And then when you are done, you can hit save. Now, it will give you which poll do you want to use, one you've created previously or the one you've just created. We're going to go with the one we just created. It gives you a little snapshot of what it's going to look like, and then you can launch poll. Now, it's actually showing the poll up on the participant screen, and they will get to choose the options that they want, and you are currently seeing the live feed of what's coming in. So you would want to wait until 100% of your participants have voted. You could verbally remind them, hey, please go ahead and submit your response. And once they're all in, you could hit end poll. And this will show your results. If you want to share the results with your participants, simply click share results. And now your participants can see who voted in which ways. You can, when you are editing the poll, make it an anonymous response. So right here is the option. Do you want to make it anonymous, or do you want participants to be able to see who voted where? So that's all we have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye.